Here I am, back with another Disney live action remake. God, Disney should really stop doing all these things. Because and still, it doesn't listen to the dislikes of YouTube. Come to think of it, YouTube this normally is disabling all the dislikes counter until you put this put that patch in order to see the dislikes, disabling contents and all these things. It's almost like they don't want to listen to what the people think. People are getting tired of all these Disney live actions because they don't want them to overshadow some of the best animated movies that we had from the Disney era, especially from the Renaissance. So, from what you can hear me, I was not exactly a fan of what they were going with this movie. That was actually I even tried to avoid any trailers or anything because, well, I still needed to movies to put my top 10 best and worst on the list. And this year, the closest thing I can see from the worst movie I had seen was Night of the Zodiac that I saw two weeks ago. And I was pretty sure that I was gonna put the Little Mermaid, considering all the negativity that is going with it. Most of the negativity was mostly because they were smelling a lot of political social agenda they want to put it in. This is probably kind of like the biggest reason why these Disney movies are being remade. They're being remade because they say that, oh, this is not appropriate for today's time, so let's change things up. I personally, I wasn't against Haley Bailey's casting, because the Little Mermaid doesn't need it to be a white girl with a red hair, and the actress is pretty enough, despite her ethnicity. I wasn't against that. And lots of people say that they were kind of like not against that. But what the problem is that, how can I say it? She really, she was casted in when there was kind of like this bad environment about how we're looking at Disney. Disney is now kind of being slammed because having this woke agenda on the background, and when people sees it, even in the tiny minuscule thing, they're gonna cry wolf, and it's gonna implode. Yeah, I know it's a bit ridiculous, but I kind of understand why they were going with it. But like I said, I wasn't against with the casting. I was mostly against the fact that they took a beloved Disney movie that is timeless, and it has kind of like its flaws here and there, but sometimes a flawed material is where the beauty is. And I was pretty much, I didn't want it kind of like a situation like Beauty and the Beast or Aladdin, and in which I hated those movies. And I'm glad that last year I kind of skipped a lot of those. I'm hearing that Pinocchio was pretty awful. Actually, it is awful. I saw videos that they point out the flaws of those movies, and boy, that this live action Pinocchio was really, really awful. And since I don't have Disney Plus, thank goodness, I didn't see Peter Pan and Wendy, and people tell me that it's really bad, really really bad. There's some. So let's say that I was really really dreading the time when I was gonna watch the Little Mermaid, this rendition of the Little Mermaid. I remember that it was last year since I watched the original 1989 version of the Little Mermaid. I and you know what? The original still holds up. It still holds up as it's still entertaining. It still has a lot of scenes. It still is emotional. It's really good. And apparently this is they decided that they have to remake it because they just want to change some social aspects. And that kind of pisses me off that they change it not they make things not because they just want to make a Disney movie or to homage the Disney movie. It's because they just say, oh, this is social problematic, so we gotta change this. But you know what? Come to think of it, no one is actually crying foul because they're gonna remake this other movie called they're gonna make a new rendition of the color purple. What can I do with this world? What can I do with this world? It is a world I don't want part of. I don't want to be part of this world. Okay, this looks like a closing scene though, but I haven't even started talking about the movie. But you can understand my thoughts and fixation about this movie. So I finally went to the movie theater, and I tried to go to the smallest movie theater, the smallest in the smallest room that there is, because I wanted a room where there isn't too many people, because I don't want seeing noisy children kind of ruining the mood. Although funnily enough, I didn't get ruined by children. I was ruined because the guy in front of me was this guy who apparently he finds life a wonderful thing, because he was laughing out loud on that movie for most of the part. I don't know. This guy kind of doesn't know how to watch movie. Good for him. Good for him that he can enjoy a bad what I could consider a bad movie. Did I say that this is going to be a bad movie? Let me rephrase that. I watched it. Now that I watch it, here's the real thing that I think about the new Little Mermaid. Probably this is one of the better live action adaptation of Disney that there is, because all these political social agenda that there is, it kind of sweep out of the rug. I'm glad that they didn't do much. They didn't do much about that. And this one came out with a better material than I was expecting to. But still, that's not saying much. It's still a soulless cash grab that it feels underwhelming. And the thing that harms this movie a lot is that the new additions that they brought up doesn't exactly feel compatible with the movie, and they're just used to stretch out to a 2 hour and 30-minute mark, and I begin to feel the length of that movie. It feels so long that some of the additional stuff that they added for the movie, it feels so long, and a lot of the decisions that they made are kind of underwhelming. But luckily, it didn't come off as I'm gonna say that it was a bad movie. It has bad timing. It has some bad stuff, of course. But the best I can describe it is that it's underwhelming. It is a really, really underwhelming movie that it made it feel too long. So let's go on with it, because I don't need to tell you exactly what the plot is about, because we already seen the original movie a lot. We already seen the movie, many times probably in this day and age. Except if you're born on the 2000 or 2010s. But I don't know who my audience is. But you know what? Yeah. This is I this is the underwhelming thing that I have with this compared to the other one. So this is the thing about this remakes, is that you can't help but compare it to the other ones. I mean, it still has the same plot. A mermaid named Ariel. She's fascinated with human culture, and she falls in love with one, and she longs to be part of the world of humans, even though it goes against her father's wishes. And so, of course, she wants to be part of those humans, and so she goes to see the sea witch called Ursula, in which she grants her wish by of course making a pact with the devil, which technically costs her voice, so she could be with the humans, and falls in love with the Prince Eric. There, I give out a little the synopsis as quick as possible, and it's basically the same, and it is of course based on the Hans Christian Andersen book. Of course, that being Disney, the original, they decided to give it a happier ending compared to the original. Although for some reason, I kind of like the sad ending that the original had, because it technically has kind of like this religious moral, how can I say, bittersweet tone that it has. I mean, I read a lot of some of Tezuka stories in which not everything is technically a big happy ending sometimes, and it comes up sometimes kind of like bittersweet. It's all about kind of like although sometimes there's some of Tezuka stories have this reincarnation Buddhist undertones that kind of, I find it kind of like appealing, because it's not exactly kind of like a big Disney happy ending. Okay, sometimes it is, but you're gonna see some of those stories. But okay, this is another tale that I have to say. So I gotta say that some of the acting and the actors from the Little Mermaid 2023, it kind of ranges from being good to bad, I'll say. Like I already said, Hailey Bailey, she probably is kind of like the best part of the movie, because you can tell that she gives it all. Even though, of course, she made a mistake of calling out the trolls, all of this, because calling out all the people who give all the negative attention is not exactly a good idea. And because I think she did a good job at playing the character. Although the singing, her singing still makes me question if this is auto-tune. I don't see her much as a singer, but more like kind of like how can I say, an actress. And singing technically takes a lot of talent, and so if someone can help me out, if her singing was auto-tune or something like that, maybe it will be my mistake. If she doesn't auto-tune her singing, then I'll give my respect to that. What other actor there is? Jonah Howard King, he plays Eric. He also did well. Although the movie kind of also tried to make this character kind of like a parallel to Ariel. The guy who just wants to be in the sea doing adventures, but sometimes he also have problems with the relationship with the adopted mother. To make the contrast between the relationship between Ariel and her father, and it making it similar to Eric with his adopted mother. An adopted mother who apparently is Afro American, of course. At first, it's a good thing that I revise it and say that he's adopted son of her, because when he called her mother or something like that, I was like, I don't think that kind of be biologically possible. But I retract that. And when I realized that it's adoptive. Okay, then never mind. But either way, unfortunately, these moments, they kind of didn't pay off so much, because they kind of only did this only to stretch out the movie a little bit more. And another positive that I can give out on the acting is Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. I was never a fan of Melissa McCarthy until she. You can tell that this is an actress who really had fun with the character, and it came a little bit close to imitate what was it, Pat Carroll from the original, except for a few lines here and there. But you can tell that you can tell that Melissa McCarthy did well at those ones. And then we have Javier Bardem as King Triton. That one is a minus. This guy, he wasn't as intimidating as the original voice actor of the original. I don't remember who it was, but this guy was underwhelming. He didn't show enough strength on the character, and he was just bland. So this is a kind of like a minus out of me. And of course, we cannot forget the Little Mermaid, with also the animal creatures that this movie has, and that also comes with the CGI. That this movie, that Disney is obsessed with showing kind of like Disney with the CGI here and there. And by the way, I think that what underwhelms the movie is it's gonna probably underwhelm some people, because when they're gonna watch the under the sea part, and they wanted to make it as realistic as possible, but at the same time as cartoony as possible, it's not gonna have technically the same effect as Avatar: Way of the Water. So don't blame me if you go to the movie, watch it, and say, hey, this is not as good as Avatar: Way of the Water, because it isn't. We got the animal bodies that they have. They have Flounder playing a fish, being a fish, just a fish, almost no emotion into the CGI when they try to make it as realistic as possible. Flounder is played by Jacob Tremblay. We got also Sebastian, played by David Diggs. I wasn't exactly buying the design of Sebastian. They call it people call it creepy CGI. I call it underwhelming CGI. And by the way, during the whole movie, every time I hear Sebastian's voice, I was struggling to try to think if the actor was trying to put an accent to the character, because we know that the original Sebastian, played by Samuel Wright. I think I'd say it right. I can't guarantee the original Sebastian. He had this very, very heavy Jamaican accent, Caribbean accent, whatever you want to call it. What you want to talk like this? sorry, sorry if I offended to you out there. But this Sebastian, I don't even know what accent it was trying to be. I don't know if they wanted to make it Jamaican or sometimes they change it to kind of like a combination of British or French. It kept me out. I was kind of struggling. What kind of accent did they wanted to make? And of course, then we got Scuttle, the seagull. At this time, they gender swapped the character from the original, and it's played by, of course, one of the actors that actually it makes my ears bleed, which is none other than Aquafina. Ah, my God, Aquafina. Uh, she's getting a little bit close to becoming my least favorite actress in the world. I always say that Jack Black is my most disliked actor in the world. For me, Aquafina. Although I gave Aquafina a pass 2 times in The Bad Guys and Renfield, but not this time. Her voice was technically annoying, and I'll get to that when the time comes, because, oh my God, another thing that this movie, because, you know what, let's enter this moment, because one of the key aspects that the original has is the songs that everyone remembers it, Under the Sea, Part of Your World, and Part of Your World, and so on, so on, so on. The songs that were in the original movie, they tried their best to make kind of like a new renditions to it. Some of them it didn't feel a little too much. Even the famous Under the Sea felt a little bit underwhelming. This time, instead of seeing all the animals dancing here and there and all that, they just kind of decided to pull out a Finding Nemo, and they just have characters swimming and see the Medusa, seeing turtles, and it didn't feel as bombastic as the original one. You can tell that they just wanted that they put much more of their effort in Part of Your World. Although there's some parts of the Part of Your World that I found it a little bit off key, because they just wanted to try out a different take on it. And so, what else there can see? Oh yeah, there are some new songs. Although I gotta say that the 3 new songs that I have heard, only 2 kind of work. Although they were made exactly. I'm not giving them enough credit, because they were only there, to stretch it out to the 2-hour, 30-minute mark. And this movie, for a movie that could be shorter, it felt really, really long. And of course, this is the time that I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. The 3rd song that I'm talking about. This is the song that has been sung by Aquafina. And my God, that was awful. The Aquafina song was awful. Who had the bright idea to have her sing? Because Aquafina doesn't have exactly technically the best voice in the world. Every time I hear Aquafina, it's almost like she always has kind of like a cold, and she has the raspy voice. So somebody please give her a mint. And apparently they thought that this is gonna be they made her kind of like rap, make a rap song in it, and that was detrimental. That was detrimental. Some people kind of like laugh about it. Like I said, I sit in front of this guy who apparently had a laughing fit on the whole movie, and I swear that next to that guy, he just practically apparently another guy just fell asleep during the movie. So yeah, this Aquafina song really bad. If there's one thing that you should probably skip, it's probably that Aquafina song. And what else I can talk about the movie? Oh yeah, the story beats. Does it follow exactly what the original does? Of course it does. Of course it does. It follows almost every single beat to beat about this movie, about the original movie. They follow it almost to the letter, except for I've kind of like some of the few changes that I show you, and although there's some moments in which they can't reproduce because well it's not they can't translate it to animation. So if they don't know how to do it, they just don't reproduce it. If there's one thing that they remove from the movie, and they remove it because I don't know if it could have worked on this live action remake, is the scenes with the chef from the original. You know that in the original Sebastian he gets kind of like this rivalry with this chef who wants to cook him and eat him. Well, thank goodness that they removed that for the remake, because I don't know how they could translate that on how can I say live action without making it awkward, because again there are some things in animation that cannot be translated to live action. And animation is pure and you can tell that they put their heart and soul to make the character charming and emotional. There is an art that cannot be replicated with just kind of like actors. So again, I'm not against the whole movie with it. I'm just against that it's technically trying to replace social political agenda. The biggest reason why they want to make all these Disney remakes. But again, at least they don't do it. They don't do it as terrible as the Aladdin or the how could I say Beauty and the Beast. And also I gotta say that I do have a little bit of a problem with the climax with it. And I don't care if I spoil it because, well, everyone has seen it before, is that I have a problem that they swap the moment in which Ariel gives out the killing blow with Ursula. Because in the original, it's Eric doing the killing blow, but this time they changed it for Ariel. Why? Because it doesn't make her more proactive enough. They kind of missed the point. It kind of missed the point that the reason why, this is what I think. The reason why Eric is important to give out the killing blow is because he's going to show that despite being human, he can save the world of the mermaids. And here's another underwhelming thing about this movie that it has to do with Ursula, is that there's not exactly a sense of threat in Ursula, because in the original you can see that she even made contract with other mermaids and everyone. They kind of transform into these kelp things, kind of like dealing with the devil and you pay the price, and she has done most of it over the years. Although I did kind of like the small that they kind of show them, but it becomes a little bit darker, because you see a whole mermaid skeleton and there are skulls in it. It makes darker, but I like darker stuff. Sometimes the darker the better. Although when she makes kind of like the deal with King Triton almost during the climax of the movie, it didn't work. It didn't work out as if you put it in logically thinking, because they technically kill off King Triton only to be revived at the end, which kind of begs the question: this trident has the power of resurrection. I don't know. But still, the swapping that Ariel is the one that gives the killing blow, and not King and not Prince Eric, because, well, I already gave you the explanation. Okay, I'm gonna explain it again. It kind of misses the point that see what I did there. It kind of misses the point that humans are being seen back, in a negative light by the mermaids. But then, of course, it comes Prince Eric, who comes to save the day, representing, the good side of humans, that he can save the sea from a threat like Ursula. I almost forgot. I don't know if the giant-sized Ursula was a finished product, because how they designed her in this remake, they tried to hide her face as much as possible, and I don't know if because it was a bad CGI and they decided to hide it, or it was kind of like an artistic choice. But it didn't look as menacing as the original does. So basically, that's kind of like an opinion that I do have. In a way, I kind of wish that this movie was really bad, so I could kind of like bash it out, because I still think that we need to make a stance to say Disney, stop making these movies, stop overshadowing the originals, because what are you trying to do? And I think that the Little Mermaid could have been better if they took the Pete's Dragon route, in which they take the concept, but not make it like a shot-for-shot remake of the original, because the original are fine as it is. Just don't do that. You know what could have fixed this movie? If they could have technically a different approach. Don't use the songs from the original. Make their own songs. Make a new approach. And you know what? Probably make the original ending of the Hans Christian Andersen a story, in which the mermaid didn't. The mermaid refuses to kill the prince because she fell in love with him, and she makes the ultimate sacrifice by jumping into the sea and turning into foam, and she goes to heaven. Although, you know what? That kind of reminds me of one funny scene, and that is an episode of a Japanese series named Doraemon. I saw this, the cat with the gadgets and everything. Here's the thing. I saw an episode from the classic era, and there was this episode in the Doraemon decided to read the story, the Little Mermaid story to this little girl, and it has the original ending by saying that the mermaid died and she goes to heaven, and the little girl gets upset and like, well, I didn't like that ending, so he gets scolded. So Doraemon is like, you know what? I'm gonna fix this story. So he goes to the fantasy world of the storybook, and he basically changes the story to a happier one. And he reads the story again to the little girl, and the little girl then is like, wow, that's not how the story was. Look at your mind, little girl. So overall, I didn't come out hating this movie as much as I want to, but still this movie had found a way to disappoint me. It did a nice job. It did kind of like a better job compared to other failures. And so this is probably kind of like the lesser evil of the bunch. But still, I came out, being disappointed by the practice that they're going through. and hell that you know that they're gonna continue on this process with Lilo and Stitch and Moana, who apparently is not even 10 years old, or honestly, it's gonna be 10 years old. I don't want to be a part of this world.